As you guys know, today's conversation is all about creating mission-driven and aligned brands. Without further ado, I want to welcome Nate Nichols to the virtual stage with me.
It's a great question. I think originally when I started doing design work, I was 15 and MySpace had just released into the world and everyone was designing their own MySpace and I just had a fascination with the idea of being able to take something that was in my mind and make it visual and have people appreciate it. And so the more I could create something from my brain and put into the world and resonate with someone, the more I felt validated. Because honestly, I didn't feel validated as a person growing up. I grew up in a household where, people just wouldn't show you the level of affection that most homes do. Maybe some can relate, maybe some can't. But for me, I had to go into other parts of the world to seek, validation. And said differently, I just need to find a place where I could be myself and feel self-expressed. I couldn't find myself in my own home or at school. And so being behind the computer, blasting, Lil Wayne, Carter 3, and designing my MySpace page was my happy place when I was 15. And I took that passion and I started to take on my family's hustle. My family's a bunch of Jamaicans who immigrated to America, and everyone worked 2 or 3 jobs, and that was real. And we had to, eat, kill what we ate, so to speak, and bring home what we needed to survive. And so I decided to hustle with graphic design. So I went to the local sneaker boutiques and I went to the small businesses, and I was like, look, I'll design your brochure for free. And then after that, I will charge you for the next brochure or next menu. And so I made my life design from 15 and now I'm 31 and it's literally been the same since. So I've literally been doing creative work and designing and creating for 15 years. I think it's a question of character. Is the other person, does it feel like the other person across from you who has the need or the want feel like that they're going to actually be in integrity when you give them that value and reciprocate later on in life? Is the short term give that you're presenting to this person worth it long term? If I design this, will this person reciprocate a year from now or 2 months from now? And a lot of that is based on your confidence, right? If you're doing a thing that you feel like is going to make more money and get ROI, then for sure, if I make you another $1, look, you're going to have another $1 to spend on investing in this. So a lot of it's just margins and cash flow. If you can understand the other person's business too, just be real about it. Look, you're investing no money. I'm going to make you X. Next time Y comes into play and you need another campaign, you're going to take some of that X and invest in me. So there's the feeling side, and then there's functionally yo, let's talk numbers and business and let's keep it real. I'm helping you make money. So let's make money together after this. And if they're not open to those sorts of conversations, obviously I have a different tone. I'm not going to have that tone at the negotiation table, but you're going to have you're going to be able to negotiate terms to have a conversation of you get short-term gain for long-term value, in this relationship. That's a really interesting question. And the way I wanted to talk through that is after World War II, there was this crazy amount of energy and investment into society and advertising around empathy. Because all of these scientists were if we don't have more empathy in the world, there will be another world war and we will all be gone. And so there's this huge movement. How do we integrate empathy into culture and society? And I was listening to a podcast from NPR called Invisibilia. And I had no idea. I'm truly an empathic person. I love empathy. I think it's really important to design everything with empathy. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, it makes so much sense. Because both before the 60s and the 50s, America and the world was a terrible place, especially for people who look like me and other cultures, terrible. And now, obviously, the work is still being done, and there's still progress to be made for different communities and cultures. I'm not saying that is not a thing that needs to happen, but the bigger movement, I would say, started around the 60s and the 70s after World War II and ended in empathy was sort of becoming a more common term in language and in communication around the world and in classrooms, actually. So I think we're like the generation that was first connected to the internet in a way that we had community that wasn't IRL in real life. So we met people and, engaged and built, relationships over the internet, in which allowed us to design and develop empathy with other people through the web. And so our level of compassion and dedication to humans went beyond our neighbors and beyond school. And so it allowed us to have this larger or more access to empathy. And so as we are millennials growing and becoming the larger amount of the workforce, especially in the creative industry, we're now demanding more empathy be present in the room, right? And as consumers, they're demanding that empathy be more present with your company, because our dollar means everything to capitalism right now. We're demanding to do good and put better anything in the world, whether it's the way the carbon footprint you have, or the way you're supporting cultures and communities that are in have inequity in their community. So how are you supporting the consumers that are buying and ensuring that their livelihood is at a level where, it doesn't seem like you're just taking advantage of this community, or you aren't taking advantage, not just seeming like you aren't taking advantage of this community. You're actually there to enable them to have their livelihood. And so I think us as a community and Gen Z are sort of pushing that needle forward for generations in the future. In short, I don't know that answer that question of like, is there ROI? Because I think we're still measuring it. However, there are all these little tentpole moments. For example, Nike, taking their bet on Kaepernick, like making an entire campaign around Colin Kaepernick taking a knee in regards to, police brutality in the African American community. It's funny to think that like everyone just went ape because the brother took a knee, but like that's real. And so Nike was like, we're going to support this guy 100%. We're going to invest millions of dollars into this man's narrative, into his mission, into the community, and we're going to just take that bet. And so when the press release came out and journalists were writing about the scenario, the stock tanked. So like immediately it tanked.
Real
over
value.
A year, and then a 2-year period, Nike stock went back up and actually grew hundreds of percents. Like it grew their brand equity and it grew their value, actual revenue. And so that being said, I think there's long-term value in taking those socially responsible bets. And I think more and more as time passes and we build systems to measure in different ways to shape and mold, corporate social responsibility, the more it will be more pragmatic to starting a business. Like, how do we ensure like we're triple bottom line and socially responsible? Right. I think the phrase you've been using a lot on this call is tone deaf, and you can see right away, feel right away when a company is tone deaf, and all tone deaf is a result of not having the right people in the room. The Palette Group and our creative work isn't solely based on me and my brain and my thoughts. It's based on like the values that I live by, and the values that I live by is community and culture. Like if the right community is in the room that doesn't have the right culture for a campaign or speak to that narrative, then we have an issue. We can't move forward on designing this campaign. We can't move forward with designing this creative or this narrative. Like we have to have the right people in the room, just from a business perspective. If you're starting a business and you're like, you need a website development company, you don't have a website developer, you wouldn't start a website development company. You need someone to know CSS and HTML to like write website code. Like it's just nothing you wouldn't do, right? Functionally. So why do brands and corporations functionally try to tell a story that they have no experience in? That is the issue, right? And so I forgot your question because I'm on a rant now. The secret sauce is actually like bringing in people that know the industry or space or culture better than you, period. So when we did, for example, the Cora Women campaign, I'm the founder of this agency. I'm a dude. I can't relate to the menstrual cycle at all. I'm not going to try to relate to the menstrual cycle. It's just impossible. I'm not going to write content. I'm not going to speak to it. All I'm doing is to ensure that the creative integrity and the brand integrity is at a quality level that is representative of Palette Group. I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to allow an art director, a copywriter, a photographer who understands this narrative and this position and this experience to design and write and put together the story that we're going to tell for that project. So you really can't, you can tell when you feel that this feels fake and tone deaf. But to get the process right, it's really just getting out of your own way. It's really lowering your ego and being like, I don't know everyone's experience. So who do I know that could support in understanding this experience? And it could show up functionally in a number of ways. For example, if you're doing a creative campaign or a marketing campaign, is you hire or contract someone to lead the project that can relate to that experience. You hire a copywriter to develop the messaging that can relate to that experience. And then the the content or the positioning of the campaign feels more real, it feels more honest. I don't like using the word, but like it feels honest and true to that experience. That's what we're looking for, is honesty to the experience and truth to the messaging based on the experience that people have written or documented or produced content around. So this is an interesting position to be in because there's two things going on. This is like $1 billion corporation. This is a huge global operations. And so you want to ensure that A, you're working at a level, and then B, you get this right, because there are obviously Black people that work at this company and you want to represent them, right? Right? Yeah. So for us, the campaign felt fun and just a wonderful privilege to just kick in the door of 2020 on. Like, we were on holiday in Germany and Thailand during this production, and we had to write creative treatments while we were on holiday. And it was a lot of pressure to like be on family holiday and also work at that level, or putting together a pitch to get this brand team and the marketing team to enjoy this. And so the process is simply like, what is their brand values and ethos? And for them, they this is their brand values and purpose, that people feel more self-expressed in themselves by wearing their life, right? So their tagline is "Because Sneakers." So we have to design a campaign and a narrative around Black History Month, representing a culture in sneakers, because sneakers. I'm not in the chat right now, but like, think about that for a second. Like, how do you bridge the gap between representing a culture and then sneakers? And it's really based on self-expression. What we wound up doing was identifying 8 people of color, African Americans, that worked at Footlocker, who are like the swaggiest people you could ever imagine meeting, from the IT department. You know, this dude was wearing his Gucci glasses and a beautiful gradient, Nike top, and his jeans were falling onto his Air Force Ones that were patent leather white. And like, he just walked in, and what we did was we created an environment for them to feel self-expressed in their whole self. They came on set wearing their swagger and who they are. And we designed an environment where they could feel like Drake on the Hotline Bling music video and just dance and move and have a blast. And we just photographed and video documented the entire process. And we wound up producing these 8 vignettes of each one of these employees talking about their journey at Footlocker. And so you'll never believe that this was Footlocker's first Black History Month ever campaign, ever. So this is a footwear in America, and especially in the African American culture, is like, you get sneakers and you spend bank on sneakers before you buy a car. Yeah. You just prioritize a certain level of style and swagger in your life and communities. And footwear, African American community is by far the biggest consumer in footwear. And so for them not to have done an African American campaign, a Black History Month campaign ever, is wild. But for this one to be the first one and them to highlight their employees and the way they did was beautiful. We shared stories about staff that worked the retail floor since the 90s. Like 20 years ago, they were working at Footlocker, and now they run entire verticals of business at footwear at Footlocker. The same woman. Yeah. And so if you can see and feel how real they are and how appreciative of the culture they are. So this campaign was real. They could have highlighted anybody that was African American in footwear. There are so many examples of people in footwear. They chose to look internally and be like, no, there are people steering the ship, leading and fulfilling the vision and brand purpose every day in our office. How do we ensure that they are showcased and living their most self-expressed life? Because sneakers, Black history, and that's what we want to do. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to respond. And I think it's a couple different angles. First is it's your people. I think you have to, it starts with you first as a leader, is what are the values you personally, are living by, and including your blind spots. Because we all have blind spots that we need help support to find. Because we may live good values, but sometimes our blind spots still alienate people, and I think it's important to have a community around you that will hold you accountable. And then that you're able to codify and really define what your brand values are and make it a language in your culture. It has to become a language, and that's a big right? You want to ensure that there's a language and a Rolodex of terms that you guys use in communicating what your company represents and how you function. And then don't allow anyone to take away from what your values are. Don't allow a toxic culture to build based on people not following this community and this culture or value set that you've sort of developed. And I think, that's super important, is designing and identifying a brand purpose and designing values or tenets or tentpoles, whatever you want to call them, to support that. Palette Group, we're unfiltered, we're imaginative, and we're all about community and culture. Everything we do falls on those 4 pillars of value sets. So if it doesn't feel imaginative, then it's not us. If it doesn't feel for a culture or for a community, then it's not us. And so we sort of all live and breathe that. And so it's super important that you define those and don't just work to work, because you can get a very long way, which is actually working to work and building a business. But after a while, there'll be churn of employees. There'll also be clients churn. So the clients won't know what you represent and know how to work with you. You should be the first thing. Your brand speaks so loud, you don't have to say a thing. And that's super important. And there's a bunch of huge fails, I think, during this COVID pandemic, where McDonald's spread their logo to represent social distancing. I was real cute, McDonald's. And then Bernie Sanders was running for president in America. He trolled McDonald's on Twitter. This is a real life thing that happened. And he was like, "Hey, McDonald's, give your employees paid sick leave, because apparently if you get COVID-19 and you work at McDonald's, which is essential in America, that you won't be paid." So these people are risking their lives going to work for McDonald's every day, and they don't have paid sick leave. If they get sick, they're not going to be able to pay rent. They don't have a livelihood. And so Bernie Sanders trolled them until I don't know if they did anything about it, but I think it's cool to see people they don't care about your brand moves. They don't care about what you're doing visually to be cute. We want to hear what you're doing for people's livelihoods. We want to see it. We want to see the traction of that. And I think the internet is allowing people to not just sweep things under the rug anymore. People with power and influence are allowed to call you out. And even not. Last week, a vendor of Equinox, a big gym in America, high-end, high-fashion fitness club, she was owed about $8,000. That could be a little or a lot of money depending on where you are in your life. And during the pandemic, this was her money to live from. And the Equinox CEO straight up sent a letter to all the vendors saying you won't be paid. And she was like, "You know what? I'm going to post this on the internet." And she got so much press and people supporting her to be like, "No, Equinox, you're going to pay this person, and you're going to pay every other vendor." And so now they've, I don't know if they shifted their narrative, but now they're on their toes and they have to do what's right.
I want to thank you, Nate, for your knowledge and your time and for sharing with us today.